Get on up. Get on up. Get on up. Pack your shit and get on up. Get out. And take that dog with you. Oh my god, it's Sexy Saturdays and I'm Misty Eyez. Alright, so this week we are talking about moving on up, getting on out, flying the coop, taking the leap of faith. And yeah, some of our girls on the Queens of the Week channel, I can hear the TV, let me just close this door real quick. Some of the girls on our channel are actually experiencing this right now. I'm only 28 years old, so, but I do have some life experience. So I'm going to shed some advice and some wisdom and maybe help the girls learn from my, well, I don't know if learning would be what my story would help them do, but I'll just share my story and let's call it that way. Yeah, so I'm the oldest of 7 children. And the kids were like bang, 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 bang. Like literally, when I was 2 years old, the twins were born. And then every time my mom could get pregnant again, she got pregnant. Yeah. True story. Long story short, I helped raise my siblings, and I remember my senior year of high school, I was thinking about college, and part of me felt like I needed to stay at a local college, which granted, my senior year of high school, we actually ended up moving to Kentucky. It's a long story, but we ended up moving to Kentucky, and there were really not any colleges driving distance to home. You know, like coming home on the weekends to do laundry. But I kind of felt like I needed to do that because my parents needed my help. You know, taking kids to soccer practice, taking kids to tennis practice, taking my sister to 4-H, taking my brother to whatever. I mean, with, you know, my 6 siblings, everybody was in something. My father, the minister, believed that the devil used idle hands, so I remember we had to be involved in after-school activities every day, basically. If it wasn't swim team, you had to be in track and field. If it wasn't track and field, you had to be in something. So we were always involved, and therefore always carpooling and taking rides and doing things like that was very, very much a part of our life. So I kind of almost didn't fly the coop when I did because I kind of felt needed at home, like because I could drive and I was always very, very responsible. But at the same token, I knew that I was gay at 9 years old, so I knew I had to do something. Whether it be get out of the house and become my own individual person, not live my life as a big brother, not live my life as the son of a minister, not live my life as the oldest of 7 kids, not live my life as the big brother or this whatever, because I had many hats, and I knew that if I didn't leave, I would never become my own person. For example, have you ever went away for like church camp or something, and then you go shopping for church camp and you buy clothes that you would never wear in real life, but you're like, I'm gonna be preppy for church camp, and so you dress preppy the whole week, or you just try out, oh my gosh, I was a drag queen before I was a drag queen, basically. You try on looks or things just to see if they can work, basically, because nobody knows you. You're going somewhere where nobody knows you, and you could be British if you want to, and nobody could actually correct you at all. They wouldn't know, unless they were from England, and then of course they would question you about cities. But if you really wanted to prove it to them, you could learn that you're from Brighton or Southwark, London, you know, whatever. You could, if you did your homework, of course, you could, you know, be more believable. But yeah, so basically, I knew I had to get the fuck out of Dodge is what I'm trying to say. But my heart was very conflicted. I actually wanted to go to a Christian college to get healed. I thought that Oral Roberts would deliver me of evil and take these homosexual demons away from me. But he didn't. They didn't. Long story short, yeah, God doesn't fuck up. God doesn't make mistakes. And he made me the way he wanted me to be on purpose. So even though I didn't believe that for a long time, and I tried to fight it for a long time, I am who I am. And that is that. But yes, how I left the coop. I decided to go off to college. So I chose the biggest, and there was many deciding factors that went into my deciding. I had a full scholarship to Liberty University, which was in Lynchburg, Virginia, which is much closer to Kentucky. Then I had a little baby scholarship to Lee University, which was the bordering state to Kentucky. Lee was in Tennessee. And then I had zero scholarship to Oral Roberts University. And that was the one I really, really wanted to go to. I actually went there for a college weekend and I had an amazing time. I liked ORU because it was a Christian college. I liked ORU because it was a Pentecostal college. I liked ORU because everyone in the world went there. What I mean is, when I was visiting the campus for college weekend, I met people from every state, and I love traveling. I love learning. I felt like it was a huge melting pot, and I wanted to be right involved in it. I like to know a little bit about everything in the world, and that was my opportunity, I think. I also did it because I wouldn't be tempted to come home every spring break, and I wouldn't be tempted to come home every Christmas break because it was much farther. It was actually the farthest school I applied to, and I think that part of me, that was the main reason why. Well, and part of me, that was like a secret reason I really, really wanted to go to ORU, because I knew that I had to get away from my family, because I would never be able to take off that hat. Because I was very, very responsible. I'm still responsible today. I'm, always willing to help and volunteer and take care of other people. But I knew that if I didn't take off that big brother hat, or that son that does anything you want him to hat, that I would never take it off. And it was very, very scary. Honest. It was very, very scary. But it's something I truly think that everyone should do. I definitely think, like, even people that are born and raised in Fort Lauderdale is definitely a place that is a destination city, meaning people would move here. But I definitely think people from here need to move away. Get the fuck out of Dodge. Go. If you don't leave driving distance to your mom's house, you're going to be tempted to be what your mom wants you to be. In my case, it would be a very strong, masculine, preacher's son, Christian minister. I ran the nursery at my dad's church for a long time, and I was very, very much involved in youth ministry. And my heart is in youth ministry, but if I didn't leave home, I would be a youth minister today, because the pressure of being what your family expects you to be is very, very strong. So I definitely think that you need to get out and discover who you are. Who are you without your parents telling you what to do? Who are you without your parents telling you what you need to be? Who are you when nobody is watching? And that's what you need to discover. So it took me a couple years to really, really bust that shell and start becoming comfortable being unique and different. But at the same token, my freshman year, I definitely didn't want to be the poor redneck hillbilly boy. Like, a lot of people thought I was from California with my hairstyle. I had a long bowl cut, kind of blonde hair, and a lot of people thought I was from California, and I was so tempted to say yes, but I knew that that wasn't a lie that I was able to keep up. So of course I said no. I lived in Kentucky, or Indiana. I was from Indiana from 4th grade to 11th grade, and I only lived in Kentucky for 1 year. But am I from Kentucky? I guess, whatever. Yeah, it was weird. But after a couple years of ORU, I actually discovered who I was when I didn't have to be who they needed and who they wanted. And who I was a lot different than what I expected it would be. Especially when I realized God wasn't going to magically take away my homosexuality. You know? And I discovered that I can not go to bed at the time that they want me to go to bed. And I can, you know, drink alcohol if I want. You know, to be honest, I might have rebelled a little bit and did a little bit of drugs and a little bit of drinking and a little bit of prostitution or escorting and phone sex operating and, you know, all the things that a preacher's kid would do as soon as they can get out of the reign of their father. But at the same token, I am still my mother's son. Meaning, they instilled within me a good moral ethic background. And at the same time, I'm doing all these amazing, nasty, horrible things. Some of them I knew were fun and I wanted to keep doing, and some of them I knew I couldn't and wouldn't and shouldn't do. So that's the best part about being out on your own, is discovering who you are and deciding for yourself what's right and wrong. It can be scary. Some people aren't capable of making the right decision, and therefore they get into big trouble. But thankfully I was able to make it on my own. Now, it wasn't easy. There was definite times. I know Obune right now is having a hard time finding a job, for example. There has been times when I lived in my car. I had a car and I lived in my car for 3 whole days in a really bad situation. But I remember my first ever apartment when I moved off campus and I got my very, very first apartment. I remember the thrill and the excitement. It was a piece of crap, hole in the wall, but it was mine. And I remember loving it. And most of my life, I had to have roommates because of financial reasons. I've always ended up moving with other people, like rooms for rent and things. But it still wasn't in my parents' house. And my parents, even when I go back home, I remember one time when I was a dancer, I used to strip. And when I was a dancer, I had my belly button pierced. And I remember my mom was like, yeah, you can come home. Oh, I was in a really bad relationship with a guy that abused me and put me in the hospital like 3 times. And I moved out. And my mom was like, yeah, you can come home if you come back to Jesus. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, that means you have to take out your earrings, you have to take out your belly button ring, you have to take out all this stuff. And I'm like, and I just hung up the phone because I had forgotten how controlling and manipulating my parents are. Like, they think things are tough love, and they're not. They're just controlling. Very, very controlling, manipulating. In fact, most of my siblings followed me to ORU, the college I went to. Again, it's a great school. It's a fully accredited. You can study ministry, you can study psychology, or whatever you want. Very strict, and they'll kick you out for being a homosexual. I know that firsthand. But my parents actually, after all the kids left the farm in Kentucky, they actually moved back to Alaska, where we're really, really from. My grandparents were dying. Well, one of them was already dead, the other one was dying. And my mom moved back to take over my grandparents' boarding house. And long story short, my mother has been able to maneuver. I would choose not to use the word manipulate the situation, but my mother has been able to use her controlling ability to coerce and convince most of my siblings to also move back to Alaska after their lives were finished and wherever they were from or lived. Some of my siblings stayed in Tulsa after ORU, some didn't. But now most of my brothers and sisters are back in Alaska. It's surprising how that works. But yeah, after being out of their house and out of their controlling thumb. They have the ability to let you know their thoughts and opinions and expect you to believe them or abide by them, whether you do or not agree with their decisions. So since my senior year of college, when I got kicked out of ORU, I have lived on my very, very own. Sometimes have been very, very scary, and sometimes have been good. Right now is not a bad time. I live alone, which is good and bad. It's good because I can do whatever I want whenever I want. I can paint the walls whatever color. I can paint the walls whatever color I want. I can have company whenever I want, or I can not have company whenever I want. I can be messy if I want, and it's my place. I don't own it, unfortunately, but it's still my house. So yeah, it's just the best part is, like, even one of my brothers moved back to Alaska, my gay brother, and once he moved back to Alaska, he went back in the closet because of my family. And when my brother moved to Fort Lauderdale after he got his master's, he got his master's degree in Alaska, and when he moved down here, he was so liberated and so free, and so like, I can't believe I ever lived that oppressed lifestyle. I never thought ever he would go back to being oppressed. You know? I don't know. It's very, very hard to disobey your parents, I guess. If that makes any sense. So, for people like Pedro and Obune on our channel, who Obune just left the coop, she flew way far away from the family, and I think that's the best decision you could ever do, because again, you truly discover who you are. And I don't know her parents, but your parents can't tell you, no, you need to not work at the Walgreens, you have to get a job at Target. Or your parents can't say, you can do whatever you want, but I don't approve of your boyfriend. You know, it's too hard to not, live under your parents' thumb when you're in the same town, county, or state. So if I were Pedro, I wouldn't just move out. I would move to Fort Lauderdale, for example, or somewhere far. I mean, not another state, because obviously she's very, afraid to even move out. But if she moved to Fort Lauderdale, if she needed to go home, it's what, a 3-4 hour drive? You can go home anytime you want. It's just not going to be easy. Therefore, it's not going to be easy for your parents to knock on your door every day and tell you what they think you should do and that they don't approve your lifestyle. And some things would be hard, like people that are coming out of the closet or transitioning or just being not the child their parents want them to be. It's easier to do that when their parents aren't looking at them every day. So maybe if you're a straight child who is that perfect Christian son and they want nothing else but to be that perfect Christian son, then stay home. Good luck finding a perfect Christian wife living with your mom, but I don't know. I really do think that moving out was the right thing for me. Although there was a couple times when I needed or thought I needed to move back, and they wouldn't let me because I was not a Christian, and I had the choice to move back if I came back to Jesus. And I'm glad I didn't, because if I moved back ever of those times, what are the chances I moved back to Fort Lauderdale? Not good. So I'm very, very glad that they didn't accept me back, because I like it here. So yeah, moving out. What's our topic? Moving out. That's my story, moving out. And yes, I moved out the fall semester immediately after my senior year. I definitely think that you need to move out. For example, if you want to do a drag show and your parents don't like drag, you can if you don't live with them. If you want to date a boy your boyfriends don't like, you can if you don't live with them. But if you have no job and no money, it's good to live with your parents. And some parents purposely encourage their children not to have jobs because they want them to be dependent on them. You know, my mom definitely had empty nest syndrome. When all 7 kids were gone, she moved back to Alaska and opened a boarding house where she had like 600 people, maybe like 80 people that needed her, much like a mom. Like, she does a halfway house for special needs people where literally she has to make sure to take their medicine in the morning and medicine at night. And she's very much like a mom, and that's good for her. She needs to be needed, and I'd rather her have those people need her than me need her, and her to be able to tell me what I can and cannot do, because that does not fly with me. I'm very bullheaded. Anyways, that was my very long topic, and today's not even Wednesday. I recorded Wednesdays, but this Wednesday I was still in Chicago. I went there for the Miss Continental, the pageantry system, and 2 of my friends were in the pageant. One of them made it to top 12. One of the Lips girls in Atlanta made it to the top 5. She actually really could have won the pageant. The pageant was amazing. There was 3 of the contestants that made top 5 easily could have won. But I definitely agree with the winner. I was a big fan of Brooklyn Heights. I think Brooklyn could have won last year. But I kind of thought Queen Bee Ho was going to win because she won prelim talent and she won prelim gown. And she's kept the same talent and kept the same gown. So I'm kind of surprised she didn't win, but I guess her question answer was kind of not good. But Brooklyn Heights turned it. I'm glad she won. But I'm back here. I almost didn't post this week, but I know that not posting is something that these girls like to have many excuses not to do. And I did not want to be one of those girls. And I knew that I had to work at Lips tonight, so I'm like, you know what? If I quickly record, I'm going to be able to post for tomorrow. So it's actually Friday. I usually record on What's Up Wednesday and post on Saturday, but it's actually, well, technically it's Saturday right now if you look wherever that is. Yeah, loving you is easy.